Adam Gilchrist won his second game as captain for Middlesex as they beat Essex by just 5 runs in a high-scoring and dramatic Friends Provident T20 match at Lords, and these are the highlights. Middlesex won the toss and a belter of a batting wicket, and the Aussie duo of Gilchrist and David Warner, playing together for the first time at the home of cricket, got off to a good start with a couple of early boundaries to thrill a big crowd at Lords. Disappointingly for them, Gilchrist fell in the third over for 13. For the second match in a row in the capital, he was caught and bowled, this time by Scott Styris at 21 for 1. The good thing about having Warner in the side is that losing Gilchrist doesn't mean that the fun doesn't immediately stop. He hit 1-6 over the short grandstand boundary, but the size didn't really matter as he also hit Styris into the mound stand for another maximum. Styris got his revenge, however, as Warner on 25 could only turn him to Chris Wright at square leg and was out with a score on 44 for 2 in the 5th over. Owen Morgan was brought in ahead of O.A. Shah at number 4, and that looked to be a spot-on decision as he effortlessly drove Danish Canaria for 6 and then hooked Maurice Chambers for another maximum as Middlesex kept on playing their shots in spite of losing those wickets. They'd raced to 83 when they lost Morgan at the end of the 8th over. He again tried to hook Chambers, but this time found Ryan Doeschate at long leg and was out for 21. The home side showed that no one player needs to get a big score for the side to shine. Neil Dexter was the next to find the boundary. But he lost David Milan for 19 when he was caught at the second attempt by the bowler Wright. That made it 124 for 4 in the 14th over, and it meant that a perfect foundation had been laid for the remaining batsmen to throw the kitchen sink at just about everything. Dexter, along with Shah, was able to do just that, as the pair added another 37 runs in 21 balls for the 5th wicket. Middlesex were certainly getting themselves into a better position than they'd managed in their other T20 matches at Lords this summer. Dexter fell for 43, caught at long off Wright at 161 for 5, but 3 overs still remained. Shah tried to make the most of them by planting Wright into the stands for the 6th maximum of the innings. In trying to hit the 7th, he holed out to Doeschate in the final over for an excellent 35 made off only 20 deliveries. Gareth Berg did hit that 7th 6, making the most of the short boundary again, as Middlesex made exactly 200 from their 20 overs. A good score, but not a massive one, on a very good pitch. The bowlers then began well as Essex had to make the most of the power play overs. Ravi Bopara skied a ball from Tim Murtagh and was well held by Berg on 11. And John Maunders was cleaned up by Pedro Collins for 4 as Essex were reduced to 17 for 2 midway through the 4th over. But the wonderful thing about T20 cricket is that the loss of early wickets doesn't mean that sides shut up shop, and Essex were forced to keep on playing their shots with Matthew Walker and Doeschate beginning very well. Doeschate is now among the most destructive batsmen in world cricket. He'd already blasted a 90-odd in a losing cause this season, and he now started to tuck into the bowling of Robbie Williams as he began to entertain the crowd and endangered any angels flying above Lords. Walker doesn't quite have Doeschate's shots in his locker, but he was still playing a vital role as the two took the total to 95 in the 10th over. Middlesex kept chipping away though, and Walker fell for 30 as Dexter had him caught at deep mid-wicket. But with Doeschate still there, Essex were favourites to win. He was beginning to hit 6s for fun, making the most of a Milan over, which went for 22 to put the visitors firmly on top. Collins then returned to the attack under pressure and bowled Styris off the bat for 12. Essex run 131 for 4, 70 needed now in 6 overs. New Essex skipper James Foster adopted an unusual stance to try to upset the bowler, perhaps the latest innovation in this game. But he didn't last too long before he was superbly caught by a running Warner in the deep. 46 were now required in 3 overs. Doeschate was still there though, and with him at the crease, Essex still had a great chance. He continued to pepper the boundary with an array of outstanding shots. These 2 6s took his tally for his innings to 7. The only disappointment for him was the lack of support from the rest of his team. He deserved his 100, which arrived off only 52 balls. It was an astonishing innings, but his job wasn't finished yet. Although it was moments later. For once, he didn't connect properly to an attempted hit off Collins, and he squirmed the ball instead only as far as Morgan. He was out for 102, made off 54 deliveries. So into the last over, and 15 runs were needed. The over started well for Middlesex as Tim Phillips was given out leg before to the first ball. But the nerves started to jangle once more when Canaria played an extraordinary shot which flew over the ropes for another 6, the 15th of the day. Now only 9 were needed off 4 balls, but when Canaria was run out by Collins for 7, Middlesex knew they had the game in the bag. It was a royally entertaining affair and Middlesex deserved their win by only 5 runs. They now move into mid-table in the South Group and will be growing in confidence ahead of another important week.